Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Global Green Growth Week 2022. This is a session dedicated to the green entrepreneurship in Asia, opportunities to drive innovation and build low carbon and green economies. My name is Johan Kim, the GGGI's country representative to the Philippines. I'll be your moderator today. I'm actually very thrilled to have you all, the speakers and audiences online today, as we expect to listen some of the fascinating stories on how startups and entrepreneurs are providing significant contribution to building low carbon and green economy. We have an excellent lineup of speakers today, so I'm sure you will enjoy the session. Now, as a first speaker, I'd like to introduce the President Chair of the Global Green Growth Institute and the 8th Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, to give his welcoming remarks through the video. HEQ people, can you play the video?
Excellencies, distinguished participants and guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome all of you to this year's Global Green Growth Week, organized by the Global Green Growth Institute. Your participation is evidence that we, the global community, demand climate action, and I want to thank you for doing your part to drive and empower green growth. The climate crisis is perhaps the defining crisis of our times. Every year, we can read and hear more and more about the devastating impacts of extreme weather systems, and this year is proving to be one of the worst years yet, with the record floods, the droughts, and the heat waves, all of which lead to displacements from homes, food crises, and wildfires that disrupt and destroy the lives of millions. We are destroying our hope for a better future, and we need to work together to save our planet. I'm pleased to know that so many of you are coming together to exchange ideas, solutions, and best practices on how to advance the implementation of the Paris Climate Change Agreement, the framework which I helped establish during my time as the Secretary General of the United Nations. I'm especially pleased to know that many of you are joining from all corners of the world, including Africa, Asia, Latin America, the Middle East, and the Pacific. And many of the solutions to be discussed are coming from women and indigenous communities who are most affected by climate change. I encourage you to take full advantage of Global Green Growth Week and engage with one another as green growth champions and practitioners. The climate crisis will require collaboration and collective action from each and every one of us, because climate change knows no borders, and climate change does not discriminate based on race or social class. We can transform our economies and societies and live a better future, a sustainable and inclusive future, only if we work together. The challenges will be difficult and there are no shortcuts, but if we work together urgently, I think we can do it. As I have said before, there is no plan B because there is no planet B either. I hope you will join me to make the world a better place for future generations. I wish you very fruitful and successful events during Global Green Growth Week. Thank you.
Thank you for President Chair for your message. Now we are moving to the opening remarks for today's session. I'd like to introduce Dr. Frank Risberman, who is our Director General of the Global Green Growth Institute. For this session, I would like to particularly introduce him as a champion of supporting green tech and climate tech entrepreneurs, especially in developing countries where the Global Green Growth Institute serves. Thanks to his leadership and support for the last few years, GGGI has been supporting the climate and green entrepreneurs in developing countries through the initiative called Greenpreneurs. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Risberman for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Johan, and welcome to the participants of this session on green entrepreneurship in Asia, opportunities to drive innovation and build low carbon and green economies. I commend all the enablers in the green startup ecosystem driving innovation in Asia. Clearly, as we heard from our president and chair, Ban Ki-moon, net zero is not a choice, and reaching it will require rapid deployment of climate technologies, including those that are not yet on the market. And therefore, green entrepreneurs and innovators are key to fill this gap. In 2021, climate tech companies mobilized $165 billion from public and private markets, apparently, according to Bloomberg. The energy and transport sectors attracted the most capital, both about $70 billion, but agricultural technology and circular economy startups were emerging rapidly. However, the bulk of this money is still only mobilized in the US, in the United States, and in Europe, and much less is available to companies in developing countries. So we still need to build a proactive ecosystem of enablers, such as impact investors and accelerators and venture capitalists who can encourage green entrepreneurs to take up challenges and provide so-called patient capital for them to step up, provide solutions, and scale up impact. GGI has tried to do its best the last 5 years or so to support startups and entrepreneurs in developing countries. Through our Greenpreneur network, we have supported a number of rounds of global business plan competitions, and we currently have regional programs that provide business coaching, mentoring, seed and zero interest loan provisions across Asia, the Pacific, and the Caribbean. We also realize we need to do more. We need to do more at scale and at speed. So this session actually brings together a very interesting mix of speakers, people that are ecosystem enablers and climate and green startups in Asia. I think Johan and colleagues have prepared an excellent session. I look forward to learning more, and I welcome the speakers and wish to them to share their stories of scaling solutions across the region through constructive collaboration. Thank you very much. Johan, back to you.
Thank you, Frank, for your encouraging message. What a great kickoff of our conversation today. So now, before we begin the panel presentations, I would like to provide a brief context of the session, elaborating what our Director General has explained so far. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is, next slide, please. How many of you have watched a Netflix film, Don't Look Up? It's about the massive meteor is about to end all life on Earth. The bright scientists agreed, and will the people in charge take the urgent action needed? So the movie basically provides an allegory about climate crisis and a biting satire on politics and the media around it. So the question we have is whether we deal with this climate crisis in the right manner. Are we making immediate mitigation and adaptation impact? Next slide, please. I believe the green entrepreneurs are one of the important driving forces that accelerate low carbon and green economy for us to deal with this climate crisis. There are the engines and hidden champions driving innovations. Like our Director General said, International Energy Agency said that reaching net zero by 2050 requires rapid deployment of available technologies, as well as use of climate technology that are not currently on the market yet. So we need startups and entrepreneurs and investors to crack this. Also, with the net zero pledges by the government, more and more leading corporations are committed to net zero emissions across their supply chain, including direct, indirect, and value chain-wide emissions. So again, we need startups and entrepreneurs who can support this journey. Next slide, please. So just to repeat, the investment landscape has been significantly growing in climate tech and then green tech companies. So only in 2021, raised $165 billion, mostly energy and transport sector, like our Director General said, but also the ag tech, such as the alternative meat, the plant-based meat, vertical farming, precision agriculture, and also the circular economy startups across fashion, food waste, plastic, and electronic waste industries that have been emerging. And also over 25 green businesses have joined the Global Unicorn Club, which combined valuation exceeding $70 billion. However, the most investment was made to the advanced countries. So we need to look at the ecosystem in developing countries. So for this session, dedicated to Asia. So having said that, let me begin the panel discussion. The session is composed of two parts. For the first part, we'll be mainly discussing the green startup investment potential in Asia, together with so-called ecosystem enablers. We have an excellent panel members today representing Accelerator, Impact Fund, and the Venture Capital from Korea, Philippines, Indonesia, and Vietnam. So these are some of the guiding questions. What are the latest trends for startup investments in the sustainability space in Asia? What is further required to create enabling conditions to accelerate net zero 2050 transition? And then from early stage investors' point of view, what are the important criteria when making investment decisions for those companies? So having said that, our first speaker comes from the Philippines. He's one of the founding partners at Gobi Core Philippines Fund, which provides early stage financing to Philippine tech startups. He's also a circular economy expert and then also the mentor for the Greenpreneurs Network of the Global Green Growth Institute. So I would like to invite first Mr. Carlo Delanter from the Philippines. Carlo.
Thanks, Jern. Hi, Frank. Thanks for having me again. It's good to be back. But today I'll be wearing the hat of being the head of circular economy for Gobi Partners, one of the most active pan-Asian regional venture capital firm in this part of the region. As a head of circular economy, my role is to really understand what the ecosystem looks like and how we grow it. At the moment, it's still emerging, although there are a lot of things that are being established on what circular economy strategies would look like, especially on the investment point of view. But however, for the talking points here, we'll start with the trends in green startup investments in Asia. As you can see here on the slide, the Asia Pacific region accounted for almost 50% of the global energy transition and investment in 2021. Now, this is good and all, but the real question is, can we sustain it, and how do we make sure all the other developing countries take heed? As we all know, especially in the Southeast Asian region, we do need to create that the transition. However, there are specific nuances, but also challenges that are currently being tackled at the national level, most especially on the consumer side and also the development side. Next slide. We all know this already, accelerating the net zero 2050 transition. On your left, what the investments needed. However, on the right is really where I come in, right? What does the role of the circular economy really bring in to this space, and why do we need to take circular economy as an important strategy towards this specific transition? At the moment, especially on the ecosystem side, most of the developments really happening in the western part of the world. In the Asian countries, we have a couple of countries that are really leading the way. However, when we look at Southeast Asia specifically, we get the sense that most of there are some intersections or convergences where you see circular economy startups being classified either as an impact investment and or a tech investment. And that's still of debate at the moment with the ecosystem where it looks at. However, I think at the end of the day, it's really the VCs or the investors that have a specific mandate, really looking into, especially when they're already adopting or transitioning towards an ESG role or a framework for their VC firm. Next slide. So I guess we wanted also to show, especially for the attendees and most especially for our peers here, that Gobi has started really taking ESG seriously. We've published our first sustainability ESG report a couple of months ago, where really to showcase where we are, especially in the circular economy side. The portfolio is fairly young. However, we're seeing a lot of the deal flow really coming from the circular economies side, especially on the side of South Asia. Next slide. Now, I was requested to talk about the Philippines, especially in the circular economy front. As part of being head of circular economy and being based in the Philippines, one of the most crucial things is really to understand where the basis of circular economy is in the Philippines. And we realize that there's still a lot of work to do. We're still at its infancy stage. And lucky enough, being part of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation ecosystem, we are currently tracking the initiatives in the Philippines and where we are currently. Next slide. So we did a report, and as you can see here, when we came in, really mapping the initiatives in the Philippines, there were only around 24 last 2019. However, last year, we saw a significant increase when it comes to initiatives in the Philippines. On your left, you can see different primary strategies that are very, very crucial. However, I want to highlight that even if waste as a resource is leading the pack, at least when we hit the circular economy transition, waste as a resource should not exist anymore, because we hope that all the waste within the supply chain is being utilized by other supply chains in the world. Next slide. And I guess in terms of where we are in terms of industry, F&B is pretty high. Cities are really taking it seriously, still on the development, research, discovery phase of what circularity means at a local level. Most importantly, the cities, especially the city of Pasig, has really taken this seriously and really understanding. Most of the time, it's still at solid waste management level, but we're seeing a lot of it really transcending over time, especially with us really contributing to this factor. Next slide. And that's it. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to end that, especially in the Philippines, when we're looking at industries, it's important to look at the lowest hanging industry that could easily transition to a circular Philippines. And currently, the 4 industries we see have the highest potential are fashion, plastic, e-waste, and food waste. And hopefully we can talk more about that as well. But I look forward to talking about with the rest of the colleagues here. Thanks.
Thanks, Carlo. Very good presentation. So interesting to learn how Gobi Partners has been taking ESG standard in the startup investing space, and also your focus areas on e-waste, agri-waste, and the fashion, and then e-waste industry. So waste as resource. So it's noted that from the circular economy perspective. Now, we'd like to invite Impact Fund from South Korea. For the last 10 years, the country has been experiencing a quantum leap in terms of the creating startup investment ecosystem. Now, the question is how much green and climate tech startup investment has been mainstreamed. So MISC is an impact fund and then startup accelerator based out of Korea, now looking into Southeast Asian market as well. So let me introduce Mr. Young-woo Kim, senior consultant, and also the venture capitalist, who will share his experience in investing in green tech startups as an early stage investor. So Young, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Young of MI Social Company, and I work as an Impact Invest and MISC. First of all, I really appreciate the invitation to this wonderful event. Through this session, I'd like to introduce our impact fund and investment cases and explain how we create green and environmental impact through our investment. Actually, this is my first time introducing MISC's the impact investing in English, so I ask for your understanding, even if my lack of expressions. Okay, then let's get started. Our company mission is we are entrepreneur empowering entrepreneurs working together toward the best for the world. It means we provide innovation capital and shared service to all who social innovators and support them achieve the goal. Through this, we achieve social and environment impact together. Next slide, please. MI Social Company is innovative company that assists innovation through the operation of the Jubilee Spirit. The Mary year mentioned in full name of MI Social Company refers to an era in which we serve the social polarization, economic inequality, and environmental crisis. MISC's aim for social innovation that solves social and environmental problems sustainably through business. Also, MI Social Company is an innovative organization that helps innovators and innovative enterprise that seek to solve humanity's three major challenges: social polarization, economic inequality, and climate crisis. Okay, next slide. Next, MISC's Impact Fund investment record. First, we invest in total of 101 companies, and our AUM is $50 million, and the total size of companies we have invested in about $1 billion. Especially, we are investing in companies focusing on green and climate industries. Also, we contribute to UN SDGs goals and technology innovation in the industry through accelerating and impact investing. Next slide. And I'd like to introduce our green and climate-related investment portfolio. The first company is Green. Green is a company that supports vertical hydroponics in an innovation way, and it internationally installs and operates smart farms. It helps small-scale farmers in digital innovation and also helps in distribution so that they do not fall behind in price competitiveness. Through this, more farms can participate in carbon-reducing farming methods together and help to operate sustainable agriculture. Next company is Reharvest. Reharvest reupcycles food waste so that it can be reused as a raw material for food. About 60% of waste is generated in the production process. And we continue to develop innovation in recycling waste and reducing waste by upcycling discarded waste. Currently, they developing various upcycle solutions for food products such as beer and bananas through collaboration with other companies. Second, I introduced our portfolio in the climate domain. First, the company is 60 Hertz. The company develops solutions that can efficiently use natural energy by protecting the imbalanced demand and supply of natural energy. This makes natural energy more accessible to more business and individuals and makes it easier to join initiatives like the RE100. Finally, the company is Engine. Engine is a company that develops wave energy solutions. Engine also participated in this session. This company acquires natural energy through waves generated off the coast and is preparing for scale expansion after completing POC. And through companies like Engine, we want to have more companies participating in natural energy development. In addition, we are investing in more than about 20 green and climate companies and are making an impact together. And we are making an impact so that more companies and society can participate in net zero. Next slide. MISC, as a B Corp certified company since 2016, played a crucial role in the co-founding of BRAP Korea and led their domestic movement. Also, MISC participated in other global initiative and has the largest resource, information, and networks related to various social innovation fields in Korea. And we plan to enter Singapore in the near future and are actively considering investing in companies in Southeast Asia. Next slide, please. As I mentioned previously, MISC helps business innovate through accelerating and impact investing. Based on MISC's unique invest, rent, strategy, and investment philosophy, we invest intensively in social ventures and with leading indicators in the innovation field. First, we provide opportunities through participation in innovation capital to innovators. Second, we provide fuel for innovators, creating new markets. And third, we look for innovators who recognize social problems as new markets and make sustainable businesses. First, as a catalytic capital, we first invest in innovators and then engage in other finance. And finally, we offer long-term innovators such as the education industry, the opportunity to continuously change systems and structures. Next slide. Yeah. I briefly introduce MISC's impact investing and portfolio. I sincerely look forward to opportunity to share and collaborate through more events in the future. I really appreciate invitation to this wonderful event and hope all you have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you, Young-woo, for your excellent presentation. It's actually interesting to learn your recent investment in the vertical farming industry and also the reharvest, the food upcycling business. I think it's pretty much aligned with what Carlos said. He's looking for the circular economy companies who can make waste to resource type of generation. So it will be good for you to share those information about reharvest. I know they are utilizing residuals from the beer factory to make energy bar or something. Right. So that can be interesting for the Southeast Asian startups to look into it. So thank you, Young-woo, for your presentation. Thank you. Now we are going back to Southeast Asia again, Indonesia. So according to one of the recent studies by the Indonesian Venture Capital Association, the country is expected to be the next startup hub in Southeast Asia. So the 2020 number was the country will be generating $2.7 billion for the startup industry. So to give more insights into this exciting development in the region, we have with us today with the co-founder and managing partner at Impacto, a company that supports early stage startups based in Jakarta. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Italo Gani. Italo.
Thank you, Johan. Good morning, everybody. So my name is Italo Gani. I'm the managing partner and co-founder of Impacto. So as Johan sharing, yes, Impacto is a product building accelerator for startup in Indonesia. And we've been empowering the Indonesian startup, and we start to have more green startup in our ecosystem. Next. So I think Indonesia as a country has been growing so fast. I think the era of startup, it started in 2010, 2011 when Tokopedia and Gojek started. Now in Indonesia, we have 1 decacorn and 7 unicorn. And I think there'll be more unicorn coming this year as well. So other than this, I think majority of decacorn company like Grab also, their biggest market are still Indonesia. So also Indonesia as a market will be one of the biggest, already one of the biggest market in digital in Asia. And in 2025, actually Indonesia will have a very significant growth also in digital ecosystem. Next. So I think the challenge for Indonesia in terms of the green economy, I think we cannot really deny that the relation between economy, social, environment are very important. So I think one of the challenges as a developing and emerging countries, we have a challenge of bring the economy growth and also the sustainability in terms of environment and social. So I think we cannot really focus in one sector. We really need to orchestrate the profit, the people, and the planet together. Next. That's why in Impact 2, we truly believe that any startup, including any green startup, need to be sustainability, have a business sustainability. So we encourage many of the startup in the ecosystem, green startup, to be profitable, to be commercially big. Why? Because at the end, if this green startup has a commercially big, fundamentally business are strong, they can empower the whole ecosystem to create a better ecosystem for green startups. Yeah. Next. So because of this, in our ecosystem, we believe in singular goal to democratize product market fit. So that's why Indonesia is unique as a country. We are one of the biggest countries in the world, one of the fastest economy in the world. But as a country, we have a very unique approach. We have unique consumer habit, and we have unique government regulation as well. That's why we in Impact 2, we actually create an ecosystem of coaches, which is prominent startup founders and startup, to empower, to share the knowledge about building the product. Next. So the last 3 years, Impact have been running these early stage accelerators. We even engaged some of the group partner of Y Combinator, Gustav, in sharing their knowledge about product building and also running program, government program like Startup Studio. But I think one thing that we also notice, and also we've been working with many green startup. So one is, for example, Jejakin. Jejakin is the carbon footprint marketplace, one of the biggest carbon footprint marketplace in Indonesia. And also we have ecosystem waste management startup that been working closely with many B2B in the Indonesia corporation to process their waste. And then also Autonoma is they built a carbon analytic platform for logistics, especially for SMEs. Yeah. And then we also have PowerBrand. PowerBrand is more into energy management platform for corporation, for B2B, to more efficient create using the energy. So I think through this, some of this startup, we've been empowering more and more startup to create technology or business model to empower the green economy. And also we plan to have a very big new accelerator, Impact to build climate tech accelerator, that will be held next year, Q2 next year. So I think we believe the future of Indonesia, which is we are a very big countries, economic also very big, is also we need to be able to create sustainability in the ecosystem as well. So next, I think hope from this session we can collaborate and empower and learn from other countries about empowering the green startup. Thank you, Johan.
Thank you, Italo, for your wonderful presentation. And also, it's good to know that you have an ambitious plan on nurturing green and climate tech startups next year as well in Indonesia. So we will be very happy to learn more from you on that plan. Thank you, Italo. So now we take a look at another important country for the green tech and then climate tech startup scene, which is Vietnam, who is showing a lot of promise in terms of capital investment in startups as well. So we have with us today the general partner at the Vietnam Silicon Valley, leading the startup accelerator and then also venture capital, investing in early stage startups. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Gibbs Song.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gibbs Song. I'm a partner at VSB Capital. It's my honor to introduce about VSB Capital and to share my views on green trends and opportunities in Vietnam. Next, please. VSB Capital is the first and most active startup accelerator in Vietnam. We have invested in over 80 startups since our inception in 2014. In 2015, we have added VC investment to our business portfolio, and we renamed ourselves from VSB Accelerator to VSB Capital. VSB Capital was founded by Ling Han on my left, and I joined VSB in 2018 as a general partner. We are not a so-called impact fund, but because of the Vietnam's emerging country nature, many of our startups actually are social enterprises. Next slide, please. So next few minutes, I would like to share with you some of the green trends and opportunities with an emphasis on transportation, renewable energy, and waste management. First, I would like to talk about electrification of the transportation sector. VinFast, the automotive arm of Vietnam's largest conglomerate, Vingroup, is leading the way. VinFast has declared that they will cease production of internal combustion engine vehicles and transition to 100% electric vehicles at the end of 2022. VinFast electric buses and e-scooters are commonplace in large metropolitan areas in Vietnam. While demand is still not ripe, VinFast sold over 50,000 e-motorbikes in 2019. And VinFast is also investing heavily in building the electric charging infrastructure. They are in the process of installing 150,000 charging ports at over 3,000 charging stations. Next slide, please. Another green trend in Vietnam worth mentioning is non-hydro renewable energy, such as solar and wind. The Vietnam government plans to generate almost 20 gigawatts of power, each from solar and wind, by year 2030. Next slide, please. Vietnam has a huge appetite for disposable plastics, such as shopping bags, water bottles, and food containers. But people are not that prudent when it comes to keeping them contained after their usage. Each year, more than 3 million metric tons of plastic waste are discharged uncontrollably, and about 10% of them end up in the ocean. In 2020, VSB teamed up with UNDP and the governments of Vietnam and Norway to organize EPIC, EPPIC, stands for Ending Plastic Pollution Innovation Challenge, to combat plastic waste pandemic. Next slide, please. Now, I would like to share some business and investment opportunities considered by VSB. First is batteries and solar cell recycling. Secondary batteries or rechargeable batteries will be an essential part of the green economy, and the battery recycling is a very important building block for a renewable energy ecosystem. Our one passenger electric vehicle having a range of 500 kilometers will use more lithium-ion cells than 10,000 smartphones combined. Keeping the used cells away from landfills is not only environmentally desirable, but also economically beneficial, as there are lots of precious metal that can be recycled. Besides electric vehicles, renewable power generation requires a huge amount of batteries. Renewable power, such as solar and wind, are intermittent and unpredictable. In order to maximize the benefit of solar and wind power, and ESS or energy storage systems must be installed. The perception of the Vietnamese renewable energy industry was that the hassle and cost of ESS outweighs the benefit, but the perception is slowly changing. In Vietnam, there is no dominant player in battery and solar panel recycling yet. VSB is looking for startups and businesses that have innovative battery and solar panel recycling technologies. Next, the power output of solar panels is directly, previous please. The power output of solar panels is directly proportional to the cleanliness of the surface. Snow in some places and dust and bird waste on the solar panel will greatly reduce the power generation capacity. Solar panels must be cleaned periodically to ensure optimal power generation capacity. Solar panel cleaning robots will become a mainstay for solar power generations. Next technology we are looking at is Vietnam has a vast land mass with abundant agricultural products. One of them is cassava roots. VSB is working closely with a local and foreign company that have technologies to produce biodegradable plastics from cassava powder. Next technology is that one of the indicators reflecting national growth is the amount of cement consumption. Vietnam is one of the fastest growing economies, and its appetite for cement has grown rapidly. Unfortunately, cement production uses a lot of energy, resulting in greenhouse gases. Many different cement additives are being tried to enhance the strength of cement and in turn reduce cement usage. One such additive is cellulose fibers from plants. There is a startup working on producing nanocellulose fibers from sugarcane, which is grown in huge quantities in Vietnam. And the research has shown that they are more effective, both in terms of cost and performance compared to existing additives. Next technology is VSB invested in 2019, VSB invested in a startup called AYA or AYA Cups. AYA aims to reduce throwaway plastic cups served in coffee shops and restaurants by encouraging consumers to rent AYA's reusable cups. It was one of the finalists in EPIC Challenge sponsored by UNDP in 2020. If anyone is interested in a partnership opportunity with AYA, please contact me afterwards. VSB also invested in a clean transportation company called Modimo. Modimo manufactures battery-powered bicycles with a range of 75 kilometers on a single charge. It could replace a large portion of gasoline-powered scooters, which are a major culprit to air pollution and greenhouse gases. If you are a startup with a product, next slide, please. If you are a startup with a product or service, or an entrepreneur with an idea to make this world a better place and more sustainable, let's talk afterwards. If you are a global investor looking for green investment opportunities in Vietnam, VSB Capital would be delighted to be your partner. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Gibbs, for your excellent presentation. And it's very interesting to learn the sustainable verticals that you are currently looking for. And then also, solar cell cleaning robot also reminds me of other type of startups utilizing drone for wind tower monitoring and maintenance. So I believe following the macro level transition towards the greener economy, we believe there are much to be done to support that transition within the supply chain. So thank you very much for your detailed sharing for your investment focus areas. So now we have 5 to 10 minutes for quick discussion as we have other speakers waiting for the part 2. So I just wanted to check whether we have some questions from the chat box. So there is one question that how to ensure the sustainability of startups over time. This is a very general large question. Anybody from our speakers to talk about it? If not, we also have a question about some initiatives about green packaging. Do you think this trend has any chance of replacing disposable packaging? So I think that's something we can answer. Maybe Carlo, you want to go first about
Sure.
green packaging? Yeah.
Thanks, Jared. So I think as any type of material in any industry, it really boils down to the development and the scale-up approach of it, right? So if you look at how plastic really came into fruition, one, it's outside of the climate issues that it brings in, because it's most of the time it's fossil fuel based. A lot of the question is like, how can you industrialize, commercialize it? So there are a lot of new companies that are integrating their materials or new innovations using plastic machinery. So you're still using the medium, but then the component used to actually feed in new types of products with the same machinery is a good example. So probably the most exciting ones at the moment would be like seaweed. Bagasse is definitely something that people are really looking into. However, there's always that question of, how about the composting facilities of a specific area, because that also becomes another thing, right? So a lot of systemic considerations need to be done. But I think what maybe just to end off with the question is, there's this company called Lolyware, and they found a way to innovate seaweed towards somewhat the same as plastic pellets. So it's seaweed pellets that can be used for plastic machines. So I think that's a very interesting one. Thanks.
Thank you, Carlo. So Italo, Gibbs, Yongu, anyone would like to add? Italo?
Yeah, I want to actually answer the first question about how for startup to survive. I think
Sure.
as I mentioned in the beginning, any company need to be sustainable in the business. So I think one of the challenge actually when we create this green startup, many of the startup actually is not sustainable in terms of the business, because in terms of the economy impact, if you are using certain materials, the price can be higher than plastic, for example. So I think the most important part actually the business model, because at the end, if you want to change the consumer, I think we need to close to the unit economics that they're using now. So I think that's why in Impact 2, we believe that any green startup need to be very big commercially, so they can empower the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, thank you, Italo. I do agree with your point. Gibbs, do you have any comments on the first or second question?
Yeah, actually, first question, I second Carlos' comments. So in, like, say, 10, 15 years ago, solar cell power generation was heavily subsidized, subsidized by government. And when you are in a sector where you have to be subsidized by government to sustain, that's not a very attractive opportunity for a, financially oriented venture capitalists. So whenever I meet with startup entrepreneurs, I always encourage them and advise them to have a business model that can be sustainable, even if the government subsidy eventually stops, because government will stop subsidies once the companies become profitable. So, if you rely too much on subsidies, that's not a very sustainable business model. And you have to be, I think, build the sustainable model right from the beginning.
Thank you, Gibbs. Youngwoo, do you have any final comment? Are you still here? Okay, maybe she's not here. He's not here. So the gentlemen, thank you very much for your participation for the part one of this session. Please enjoy the rest of the session. We may need to have a conversation at the end of the session. So thank you very much. For now, for our second part of the session, we'll be discussing how to scale up impact in Southeast Asia by supporting each other, and also learning some of the dynamic and innovative green entrepreneurs who are currently offering immediate on-the-ground solutions in different sectors. So we will also discuss how to leverage this momentum through the collaboration of multiple players in this startup investment ecosystem. So our first speaker, having said that, I would like to introduce Mr. Stanley Nung, the Director of Southeast Asia from New Energy Nexus. So the New Energy Nexus ultimate goal is to help catalyze the renewable energy transition. In doing so, he's leading Southeast Asia operation to support clean energy accelerators, climate tech, energy startups. So we'd like to listen to you from Stanley. So Stanley, you have the floor.
Great, thank you, Jorn, for having us. So yeah, New Energy Nexus, we're a global organization. We run a number of business accelerators around the world, but also have small catalytic funds in different countries. So originally, we were founded in California, but that was in 2004, and now we're in about 13 countries, running programs in about 15 countries. And so far, we've deployed about 26 million in catalytic investment. And then that's our own money, but then we've catalyzed hundreds of millions more in co-investments into the same deal. So that's we're a nonprofit organization, and that's the goal we have is to enable energy and climate entrepreneurs around the world. And that means different things in different countries and different programs, but we can kind of get to some of that in a bit. Just zooming into Southeast Asia, we've been active for the last 5 to 6 years. And then if you go to the next slide, please. So we have set up offices in Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines, and have a small fund parked in Singapore. And globally, we're about 130 people. 40 of these professionals, energy and investment professionals, work in Southeast Asia. So that's just to highlight the importance we put on this region in the overall energy transition and where our work needs to be, because we like to focus on what we call markets that matter in terms of climate. So yeah, in each country, we've run a number of accelerator cohorts, a number of different types of programs from early stage. If you go to the next slide, from very early stage, incubation launch programs, next slide, please, all the way to the scale-up work. So the earlier stage work, the launch, we work with about 5 to 8 universities in each of the countries we're in. So we run boot camps, like see what researchers are working on, see if we can help PhD researchers to commercialize some of their research and their work. And then also help entrepreneurs get into the sector, because we need to grow the overall funnel of entrepreneurs and educate younger people to start new companies. That's the only way that we're going to grow the base of the industry. The acceleration programs are supporting companies that are existing and helping them to grow domestically, but also to expand internationally if they're ready for that. Scale-up programs are more helping them engage effectively with the private sector. So we work with a lot of large companies in each country, understanding what their needs are, what kind of technologies they need to decarbonize, and then we'll help them match with domestic and international startups. Catalytic funding, I mentioned, we have certain funds that aim to increase the investments from private sector into climate and energy startups. And so we're deploying one of these in Indonesia. It's been quite successful, gotten 28 times the amount of catalytic capital into the private sector capital into the mix, in addition to our own deployment. And we run a number of different community engagement workshops, and we're always open to partnering with local investors. Some of the ones that presented today, would love to have a chat about how we can work together. Next slide, please. So just to show a number of different types of startups that we've supported in the past, everything from buildings and built environment. This could be building materials, but also energy efficiency for commercial and industrial uses. Energy access is a big topic in Indonesia and the Philippines, in certain parts of Thailand as well. Energy finance, how to build platforms that can leverage more private sector financing into renewables projects. Energy technology, a lot of smart grid, a lot of data collection and analytics. Industrial decarbonization, so how to help specific industries deal with their high intensive manufacturing processes. And then, of course, renewable energy, and then also the EV and transportation space are very big areas for us. Next slide, please. So just to show a couple program examples, this year in Thailand, we're running this Decarbonize Thailand Sandbox. So we've partnered with 4 of the largest companies in the country, PTT, B Grim, CP Group, and we've done the needs assessments, understand the types of business lines and units that they're trying to decarbonize. Then we've matched them up with one Thai company each, Thai startup each, and one international startup. And now they're doing a big pilot project together, and then they're presenting the results at the end of November. So I would like to invite some of you to join us for that if you're in Bangkok at the time. Next slide. We also run industry-specific programs. So for example, in the Philippines, this is the Solar Innovation Program. In addition to the typical startup accelerators, we run this one supporting just very small EPC, micro EPCs and solar developers. So around the country, you can see some of the participants are from Mindanao, from Visayas, from Luzon, like all over the country. How do we help them to scale up their work and their business, right? How do we get them using more digital proposal generation tools so that they can focus on going to market? How do we get them more information about policy barriers so that they can get systems approved and really focus on going to market and deploying solar across the country, across like different CNI customers. Next slide.
And then just 1 minute.
Yes, yeah. This is pretty much the last slide. So just to show some of the catalytic funding and the impacts that we've had, we have right now what we call the Indonesia One Fund running in Indonesia. So we've deployed about 1.1 million of this, but able to catalyze another 18 million in private sector investments into the same deals and into the same round. So always looking for co-investors to work with. And we're currently fundraising to grow this into a Southeast Asia-wide fund so we can do the same in Vietnam, Philippines, and Thailand as well. So would love to chat more and always open to collaboration. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Stanley, for your comprehensive presentation, and then sharing your multi-stakeholder approach, bringing diverse type of investment to the energy sector. So thank you very much for your presentation, Stanley. I think there is a question in the chat box for you, so I think you can answer through the chat. So now we get to meet some of the emerging startups from different parts of Asia. So our next speaker is actually from the US, and then his company is registered both in the US and the Philippines, exploring mainly enormous value hiding in the organic waste. So they are simply producing, for coconut husk-based coolers, biodegradable packaging, among others. Without further ado, let me introduce Mr. David Cutler, co-founder and CEO of the Fortuna Cools. David.
Hi, thank you so much. It's great to be here. Great to hear more about the larger field and all the momentum, and really glad to be able to participate as an entrepreneur in this mission. So Fortuna is building the ag waste to value pipeline across Southeast Asia today, starting in the Philippines. And as we've heard from some of the speakers already, there is so much value hidden in the region's waste, so much potential that we discard, bury, and burn every day. So you can advance through a couple of these sections here, but basically we take the coconut husk, which is a leftover byproduct of coconut oil production in Southeast Asia. So coconut husks, if you think about it, were evolved to keep coconuts fresh in the tropical heat, yet billions upon billions of these husks are burned every single year as a useless byproduct. And meanwhile, right next door, factories are making virgin plastic foam for the exact same purpose, which is, to keep the food or the meat inside from spoiling. So you can advance the next slide. So businesses and consumers are waking up to plastic pollution and the related burden that commercial ag puts on the climate. Plastic foam production and disposal is among the very worst offenders here. Plastic packaging like styrofoam stacks up in landfills, it blows into the ocean, while burning crop residue releases tons and tons of CO2 into the atmosphere. We have developed our product to solve both problems at once, riding a wave of this business and consumer interest that is washing over this market and really making the transition that some of the previous speakers were talking about feel absolutely inevitable when it comes to things like bioplastics. Our technology in particular swaps natural upcycled fibers for plastic foam, creating this bio-based packaging that you can see here, which performs at least 25% better than the synthetics. And of course, it makes our customers look really good too. So today we have thousands of units moving through supply chains, ranging from fish to grocery delivery to cut flowers, and our latest customer who's shipping chocolates inside of Fortuna coconut coolers. So packaging is a multi-billion-dollar market here, and fortunately, our raw material is sitting in enormous piles around the world, waiting to be burned, or hopefully waiting to be diverted into a more useful purpose. And speaking of business models, as the last panel was just talking about, we can move really quickly here because we don't actually build factories from scratch usually. We build designs and processes, and then we forge partnerships with existing factories that are desperate to future-proof their own business models. So it's this partnership model that is really allowing us to expand quickly and with a lot of capital efficiency. Next slide, please. So it's a win-win, not just for the factories, but also for the farmers we source from, the supply chain officers we employ, and the environment that ends up with a lot less smoke and a lot less plastic in it. We like to say that positive impact is built right into every single product that we make. This is really the promise of the circular economy, and this is the value that we are helping to unlock in the Philippines and across Southeast Asia. So just kind of wrapping up here, I think if you go to the next slide, please, that the future is incredibly bright for this field and this geography. So at Fortuna, we're about to hit $1 million of revenue this year, and that's before any carbon credits, biochar, and our new single-use product line, all of which spin straight out of our core IP. We mostly keep our heads down and are focused on the problem of the day or the hour, as any good startup has to do. But every so often, I try to remember the size of the problem and the sort of world-changing potential of solutions just like this one, and like many others that we've heard about today and that my friends are working on across Southeast Asia. So packaging and synthetic fertilizer are multi-billion-dollar industries in every single country that we enter. Ag waste piles up by the megaton each and every week. And this is the value that we're targeting. One of the lowest hanging fruits that Carlo was mentioning earlier, totally agree with that. But nevertheless, it's received shockingly little entrepreneurial attention and investment to date. And fortunately, this is the potential that more and more people are starting to see hiding in plain sight. So Fortuna is expanding to Vietnam and Thailand, along with a new site in the Philippines next year. And we'll be raising a small investment next quarter to supplement the pretty significant commercial traction and all the industrial partnerships that we've been fortunate to receive so far. I'm super happy to connect with this amazing community. If you are investors, potential customers, or all the people and experts and advisors that we've gotten so much from already, please reach out if you'd like to chat. It seems like this is the right group to do it. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you're excited about this mission and if you would like to collaborate. So thank you very much.
Thank you, David, for your excellent presentation. Just a quick follow-up question. So the Fortuna Cruise is currently being sold in the market, not only in the Southeast Asia, but also in North America, or?
Yeah, it is. We've gotten a ton of excitement across continents, and I just wrapped up a trip to the US where we were speaking to customers in both the industrial sector as well as sort of the emerging consumer side of the business, which we market under the Nutshell Coolers brand, employing the exact same processes and materials, but selling into a fairly different market in North America. So today we have mostly consumer products being sold in the US, and our biggest commercial clients are in the Philippines and in Singapore. But yeah, we do have a sort of transcontinental business today, a lot of which is sort of enabled by having this kind of fast and light model, which allows us to expand to new production sites, even in places like Mexico that have some of the same market conditions and materials, and a lot of the same market interests that we founded our company on in Southeast Asia.
Thank you, David, for sharing. And then it's also good to know that your product, coconut husk-based product, has it performs 25% up compared to the traditional type of product. So I think in terms of both the sustainability side and on the economic, the productivity side, we are making the good transition. So thank you for sharing, David. And then also good to know that you are currently thinking about expanding your business in Southeast Asia so that we can collaborate with with this cohort, so to speak. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
So, well, now our next speaker, moving on, is from Korea. It's a Korean company developing onshore wave energy called Injin. Injin provides tech solutions to extract energy from waves, ocean waves. Sounds innovative. And let's hear the stories from the CFO, Chief Financial Officer of Injin, Mr. Gi-young Lee. So Gi-young, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Hello, my name is Gi-young Lee, and I'm the CFO at Injin. And as Mr. Joo-hun Kim mentioned, we are a renewable energy company focusing on the wave energy coming from ocean. So as you can see from this first slide, we are very focused on ocean. As you can see, there are about 400 million people who are dependent on diesel generation. These people are usually living on the islands without the grid connection, usually you can see from large cities. And from these people, there are about 400 million tons of CO2 emission is emitted. And the cost for generating electricity off-grid is from 5 to 150 times the on-grid cost. So it's very expensive to make energy in these islands. Next, please. And our solution to this is extract energy from ocean waves. We think this is a good solution because the waves are clean and they're very affordable. Next, please. Why wave? Because when you look at the CO2 emission, ocean energy is the least among various energy providers. It's even 1/6 of solar energy, because when you're making panels, it is actually making CO2 emissions. So we think this is one of the cleanest way to make energy. Next, please. As Mr. Kim mentioned, we are an onshore wave type. So compared to offshore, we are located, our enclosure and all the mechanical products are situated on the land, which makes it much easier to manipulate and generate electricity. So if we can see the video forward. So this is the enclosure, which means it houses all the mechanical areas. And you see the buoy on the ocean is moving. And as it moves, it is generating energy. And also, not to lose the buoy, it is fixed to the ground by a mooring. And as I said, because this is onshore type, the electricity is connected easily to the users. And this is the Jeju plant that we have at the moment. As you can see, the buoys are moving from the ocean waves. And when the ropes are moved, it is generating energy. You can see from the video. And it generates this kind of AC type of energy, and it's converted to DC back to AC, which is stable energy. So I would just like to say that wave energy is not commercialized yet, but we're at the, I guess, almost at the end of that period. And we are currently working in Vietnam, and our next project will be in Indonesia. And we are also looking to various areas in Southeast Asia and all over Asia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Guillaume, for your excellent presentation. Also, very interesting, the video clip. So I have a quick follow-up question, since it looks very interesting. So I guess since you're utilizing wave energy, so the countries like, the Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines, the island-based countries, this technology can be potentially deployed, utilizing, the geographical uniqueness. But you mentioned two things. It has not been commercialized yet. So I just wanted to ask you where you are. And the second thing is through, for instance, you are utilizing waves, but when there's a typhoon or some kind of, the natural disaster, those infrastructure will be strong enough to deal with those things. Just if you can quickly answer those two questions.
Yes, thank you very much. So we are looking at 16 or 20 years ago in solar, as one of the panel mentioned that a lot of subsidiaries were made by the government for solar energy. So it's quite similar at the moment. So no one has commercialized wave energy yet, but there are a lot of players, including us. We are at maybe a few years from commercialization. We think within 5 to 10 years, we'll see some good commercialization projects, and I'm sure we are be one of the top players in that field. And for the typhoons and all the catastrophes, we're always looking into that, and we have those systems there. So for Vietnam project, we're looking at a solution with very good flexible mooring system. So even with the most devastating typhoons, we wouldn't have to evacuate our system because it has a lot of flexibility to withstand those energy. So we're always looking into that for each area, actually, for the wave energy project.
Thank you, Guillaume, for your immediate answers. So, and then thank you very much for your participation and then the participation and the sharing your current status. So thank you. And then moving on, our next speaker is another company, the speaker from another company making innovative technologies. It's called Archie Reef. It's a Hong Kong-based startup dedicated to restoring degraded marine ecosystem through the restoration of coral reefs, utilizing 3D printing based technology, and then biomimicry adaptive design. So I would like to welcome Ms. Rico Yu, CEO of ArchiReef. Rico?
Hi, thank you for the introduction and very happy to be on the floor and sharing with you guys today. So I'm from ArchiReef and we will build marine ecosystem from reef to shore. Next, please. Coral reefs are dying. And in fact, we have already lost 50% of the world's coral cover since 1950. And if nothing changes, we will lose up to 90% by 2050. Next, please. And this would impact in a number of areas. The first one that comes to our mind would be reef tourism, which worth a 36 billion US dollar industry. Next, please. And also, the loss of biodiversity will impact the fishing industry, causing the collapse that would cause to the lack of food supply chain for 1.2 billion people around the world. Next, please. And also, that would also put the coastal communities at risk, which would worth $272 billion in flood protection in particular. So in the face of that, with 8 years of research behind our first product, we believe that the solution moving forward is to combine science, material, and also 3D printing. And our company created the world's first 3D printed reef tiles made from clay. How it works? So the first thing that we do is that we collect local ecological data and environmental data. We use this data publicly available, feed into the algorithm, and then with this algorithm define the design of the top layer. So that the top layer will be customized to the local environmental conditions. And then the rest of the part of the reef tiles will be made by a standardized method. Next, please. And this is how it looks like in the water. So basically, all of these units can be easily deployed by a single diver, and that's me in the photo. Next, please. And as you can see, this is the final result that after 1 year of deployment, it is not just about the coral, as you can see in the background, but also the restored ecosystem that's associated with the biodiversity, with the restored ecosystem. So overall, our product delivered tangible restoration results. We are securing 98% survivorship, which is at least 4 times higher than the traditional methods. We are also highly scalable because of a technology that we use in 3D printing and also the algorithm-based design. So that will also allow us to fast scale across different geographies with different environmental conditions. We are also offering eco-engineering solution, and we have a Abu Dhabi-based eco-engineering facility, one of the handful in the world. Next, please. And overall, our solutions stand out compared to the traditional methods, mainly in a few areas. One is that we're the only solution out there that can guarantee coral survivorship. The next one is that we're also the only 100% earth-friendly product that's made up of natural material, and we are highly scalable. Next, please. And we're a B2B startup business. So right now we're targeting large corporations based on the scale of deployment, and that connects to a 3-year subscription depending on the level of engagement that our clients desire. So over the last 2 years, we were founded in September 2020, and we have increased our revenue from 140K to this year, it's getting close to 500K, and we have increased it by 3.5 times. We're operating across Hong Kong and the UAE in particular, and we are working with large corporations such as Ocean Park, Sino Group from the real estate sector, and also commodities like Sanat and ADQ, and also Chaoshangsheng. Behind the team is a mix of scientist and commercial mind. I'm Rico. I'm the co-founder and CEO of ArchiReef. I'm a scientist by training, and together with Dr. David Baker, I found the scientific foundation for the company. We also have Dennis, our CCO, who bring in years of startup experience and have had experience scaling multiple $1 million revenue in multiple startups. Right now, we are raising $1 million US, in which 30% of that had already been committed by our lead investor, ADQ, one of the sovereign wealth fund in the UAE. We have been fortunate enough to be featured in different media outlets such as the CNN, the World Economic Forum, and The Guardian, for example. However, there are thousands of square kilometers of coral reefs that need to be destroyed despite that we enjoy the recognition. So please do join us if you are an investor and a venture builder or a piloting partners that we would love to expand our footprint in the Korea. So thank you all for your attention. Feel free to ask any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Rico, for your excellent presentation and the sharing your fascinating stories around your business. So you performed better compared to the traditional artificial reef, and also you're more environmentally friendly. So I think there's no reason why we are hesitating to deploy your product. So you just need to have a good opportunities in terms of the deployment of your technology. And then I believe not only the reason why we invited you, I mean, not only in Hong Kong, but also in Southeast Asia in general, and also Latin America and other areas, I think, the degradation of coral reef is happening all around the globe. So I think your business can be a good solution for those issues. So thank you for joining Recor. It's an honor to have you. So our next speaker, thank you, Recor. So we have two more speakers. So let's do that. Next up is a green and social entrepreneur joining from Cebu province from the Philippines, who is also a winner of GGGI's Greenpreneurs competition in 2021. He's the CEO and founder of Light of Hope Philippines, which offers portable solar powered package to the off-grid low-income communities. Especially, he's basically providing clean energy to the marginalized. So we are very welcome. You are very welcome to join the session, Mr. Jovi Montañez. Jovi.
Thank you, Johern, for inviting us today. I would like to share about Light of Hope PH in this session. Light of Hope Philippines aims to build a resilient and sustainable communities through the use of clean and renewable energy technologies. And this is aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, number 7 for affordable and clean energy, and number 13 for climate action. Next slide. There are two main problems that we wanted to help address. First is the energy poverty. In the Philippines, there are close to 2.4 Filipino households without access to electricity. This is because poverty and also our geographical conditions. These are the families at the bottom of the pyramid spending up to 50 pesos or more per day to buy their kerosene gas and also to pay to charge their mobile devices. Second is the climate change. As our global temperature keeps on rising, we are seeing worldwide and experiencing extreme weather events. And the Philippines has an average of 20 typhoons per year, with intensities that are getting stronger and stronger. And according to the World Risk Report 2022, the Philippines was identified as the most exposed and vulnerable to disasters caused by extreme natural events, including storms, flooding, and earthquakes. Next slide, please. To help address this problem, we developed the Cloud Grid Solutions. It is a sustainable, clean energy access for the less privileged off-the-grid communities. This provides 24/7 clean energy access for efficient lighting and mobile charging. One Cloud Grid unit can also help reduce 130 kilograms of CO2 emissions per year, which can be equivalent to planting 6 trees. The cost on repair, replacements, and maintenance is also covered. It is like your Netflix, but for clean energy access. Next slide. As of this writing, we were able to help reduce a total of 8,272.5 kilograms of CO2 emissions with the 54 cloud grid units that we deployed to our community beneficiaries in Cebu. Next slide. And our first target milestone is for us to be able to serve more than 1,000 households in the provinces of Cebu, Bohol, and Mindanao Island communities that will directly and positively impact the lives of more than 5,000 Filipinos. And environmentally, it will be able to help reduce more than 130 tons of CO2 emissions per year. Now, we know this is an ambitious goal, but with the partnership with the Global Green Growth Institute and with your help, we can all make this possible. Keep on sharing the light and be a light hero. Thank you.
Thank you, Joby, for your excellent presentation. So we commend your entrepreneurship to support the marginalized, and then while providing the basic energy access to those people. So we keep working with you, and then thank you very much for your presentation. So now, audiences, we've been dealing with 11 speakers so far. So we are waiting for the last speaker. But last but not the least, our next speaker comes from the Korean Development Bank, otherwise known as KDB. KDB has recently ramped up its investments in promising Korean green startups. And now they're looking into the global market, including the Southeast Asian market, primarily thinking about how to scale impact by providing the proper investment to this kind of startups ecosystem. So it'll be very interesting to hear what kind of intervention KDB is currently envisioning to invest in green and climate tech companies that we all met today. So I'm very happy to introduce our last speaker, Ms. Eugenia Kim, the manager of the climate business team from the KDB. So Eugenia, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eugenia, and thank you, Juhan, for your great introduction. And actually, I prepared this presentation slide, but I'm now feeling a bit ashamed because many of you, the previous presenters, perhaps you might know better than I about these barriers and how difficult, what sort of difficulties and many layers of valleys of depth you might experience so far on the ground. So I'm not going to touch upon every single detail, but as a financier, as Juhan introduced before, KDB is now preparing a new intervention across the Southeast Asian region, the ASEAN region, for supporting climate entrepreneurship and also relevant ecosystem building newly. So I'm going to skip this slide. And next. Yeah, and also I prepared this slide, but in a previous few previous speakers mentioned that they actually emphasized the importance of business model. And actually my idea, I'm the person thinking that designing financial sustainability is the very key process of designing sustainability. So I'm actually agreeing with that statement that like the emphasizes of the business model by previous presenters. Just I want to focus that. And next. So recognizing such difficulties, especially if we focus on climate technology and also emerging markets, then we see a lot of in-depth difficulties and barriers. So recognizing such a harsh reality, KDB is now working on climate entrepreneurship program, as you can see in this picture, the canvas, in partnership with the Green Climate Fund, which is the largest climate fund fund globally. Actually, we are going to target 5 countries here: Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Philippines. And also we are going to establish a VC investment fund valued at approx $200 million. And we are going to catalyze the private sector investment capital to scale up impacts, leveraging a first loss equity capital of the Green Climate Fund. So I think I would like to emphasize here in this slide that catalytic capital is a must render investments needed for scale up, impact scale up. Next slide. You can see that, as I mentioned, GCF will contribute to almost 50% of first loss investment capital into this VC investment. So actually, this program participants can benefit from this investment fund. Well, actually, I'm briefly introducing the key concept of this program is that we are going to establish a JV, joint venture between the global technology providers and local companies who having an ambition towards climate action. So after making the JV, we are going to provide the investment capital to the finalist of JVs at last, because while preparing this concept, actually KDB has met and also had a lot of consultations with many local partners in the 5 countries. And we've realized that there are several existing initiatives for supporting innovative entrepreneurs and technology-driven startups. So they've already participated in quite many supporting programs provided by international organizations, including Greenpreneurs initiated by the GGGI. But actually that graduates from existing programs. They were seriously looking for seeking for additional investment capital for scaling up their impact and also at the next stage of leap of growth. So that was actually the reason KDB and GCF made a determination to establish this sort of quite large investment VC fund together. So KDB would like to hope really many innovative climate technology-driven local entrepreneurs, they can benefit from this program, especially from this investment fund. And actually, GGGI is one of our precious partners who are actually engaging in this program. Their role is to make an outreach to local innovative companies, and also they will going to involve in the process of selecting local companies who are going to join the JV establishment finally with the global technology providers. So if you have any question, then you can also directly contact the GGGI, and also KDB is always welcome your any questions for potential engagement and potential partnership together. And next slide. This will be the last slide due to time constraint. Yeah, KDB's, you can utilize the KDB's potential because KDB is the GCF accredited entity, officially entitled. So if you would like to leverage the catalytic finance from the GCF, then you can really utilize, you can partner with KDB and KDB's other relevant private sector partners together. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugenia, for your excellent presentation. And then I particularly like your wording, the catalytic. So the KDB is currently intervening to support the startup investment ecosystem, particularly dedicated to climate tech and then green tech industries. I believe once the fund is mobilized together with KDB and then the Green Climate Fund, that will be catalytic for these entrepreneurs to scale the impact. So thank you for sharing your vision and then your plan as of today. So I think that was an excellent last presentation of this session. So thank you, Eugenia, and then Stanley, David, Young, Rico, and Joby. So now we are a little bit behind the schedule, but I believe we can still spend 5 to 10 minutes more for final Q&A session. So I've looked at the chat box. There are a couple of questions, and then there are a couple of interactions. But one question that I am reading is, how do investors earn profits from investing on the coral reef projects? Rico, you want to answer?
Yeah, sure. I think that's a very good question. I'm sure that's the question that a lot of us might just come up with, talk about conserving a nature-based solution. So I'll give you one example is that right now we're targeting verticals that have either existing investing framework or they're obligated to take care of the environment. So one quick question that you can think about is some of the examples that I've brought up just now is real estate, for example. So as part of their business, inevitably has to cause some damage to the environment. So oftentimes these companies or industry have obligation to mitigate their impact. And also by doing so, it's not just mitigating the impact, but also creating an additional revenue stream by having an in-house reef, especially for the industry sector, the tourism industry. So one example is that our client from the Sino Group, they have adopted a 220 square meter reef right outside of their properties, where they can also bring their guests into house reef for additional experiences, but also adding these brand image and also workshops to their in-house guests. So I hope that can bring you some idea, and these would also apply to other industry, but I wouldn't take too much time here, but I hope they answer your questions.
Thank you, Rico. And then there are another question for David, Fortuna Cruz. David, are you still here? So the questions were, I want to know the economic feasibility of the coconut-based product. Is it affordable to produce the goods? And then the second question of, I want to know how your product can raise the farmer's income. So basically about the value chain related questions. So David.
Yeah, thanks for those questions. Happy to dig in a little bit and feel free to follow up because those are both meaty questions. But yeah, basically, I mean, long story short, economic feasibility is critical to building a sustainable enterprise. And you know, when we sell our products, we're not really selling the environmental impact to our customers. We're selling it as a high performing and cost competitive product first and foremost. That always has led you know, the design and all the decisions that we make as a company, since we want to be sustainable both financially and environmentally. So basically, you know, starting with a raw material that is almost free, which is also the answer to the next question, allows us to make a really cost competitive product because we don't have to, you know, our marginal costs, our unit costs are pretty low. And most of our costs are just around supply chain, and that continues to decrease over time. But we are cost competitive today with synthetic products by and large. And the farmers benefit simply by having an additional income stream that used to be their garbage heap behind their house. It's not a massive income stream for them, but it's an additional one. And on the margins, it can make a big difference when something used to be a burden or an annoyance. And today we pay them a little bit of money, not just to use their product, but also for them to collect and do kind of the first mile processing of it. So that's how we kind of recruit this farmer network into our larger business model.
Thank you, David. I think it's a very useful answer for the audiences. So thank you for your participation again. So I think I would like to open up the floor one more time. If anyone from our panelists wanted to say anything as the closing remark. Otherwise, I would like to wrap up the session since we are already 10 minutes. So I think we learned enough that there are enough reasons why we need to encourage the green entrepreneurs, particularly in this region. There are fast-growing opportunities. So I just wanted to close the session by quoting what Italo from Impacto from Indonesia said at his last part of the presentation, quote unquote, let's collaborate. So thank you very much for joining the session. And then I would like to ask you to turn on the camera for have a quick photo shot, everyone. So I believe it was taken. So thank you very much for joining the session. And in audiences, thank you very much for staying online to listen to these great stories from these ecosystem enablers for the startups and then also the entrepreneurs themselves. So thank you very much. We appreciate that. See you all in the field. Thank you. Have a good one.